All right, if you are somebody who has an overwhelmingly long to-do list or has a tendency to just overschedule yourself, I'm walking you through my weekly planning routine right now, okay? I actually did this morning in my Microsystem Monday inside of my school community, which if you haven't joined, what are you doing? You should join right now. And I forgot to record it. So we're doing it again. I'm walking you through what this process looks like for me. So this right here, what I'm showing you is the final product. This is what it looks like once I'm done. But I want to talk you through kind of why I do this and what kind of the process looks like and where it came from. So the reason why I do this is I am totally that person who struggles with taking my master to-do list and assigning things to my calendar in a way that is reasonable. If you'd seen my previous to-do list, you'd know exactly what I mean. It is overwhelming. It is chaos. And so now this is kind of what I do. And it actually riffs off of a podcast that's going to be dropping tomorrow as I record this about how to keep a long to-do list without it hijacking your nervous system. And in this, I talk about a strategy that I call the 3-list structure, where you have a master list, a working list, and a parking lot list. This kind of riffs off of that idea. I will say these aren't necessarily 3 separate lists per se. They all link back to the same task database inside of Notion, but how I kind of think about how I process my to-dos kind of falls into these buckets. So basically, this is what I do. So if you've ever seen me do my weekly planning, my weekly review before, my weekly review has a planning section at the top here, which we should actually go back to the other tab because that's a lot of scrolling. This week's task. We have planning section at the top here, and then we've got the weekly review section at the bottom where I go through, I ask all the questions, I do a business reflection, I do a KPI audit, so on and so forth. What we're going to be focusing on today is the planning part, because I realized I just didn't have a good process for planning what I'm going to focus on any given day. We are fixing that today. So how I go about this process is I look at 2 different places. I look at my master to-do list and I look at my parking lot. Now, my master to-do list is any to-do that is inside of my all tasks database that has not been assigned a due date. So due date is empty. And I also have it filtering by status as not parking lot, complete, or delegated. Okay, so here this allows me to very easily see projects and tasks that are related to clients, which those usually get skipped because I usually assign those out with my clients. And then any clients that are related to a particular project. So you can see what the project is over here. So that's kind of all of those tasks. And I will slowly but surely go through and be like, all right, I want to work on this one today. I will assign it the due date. And then I actually have an automation that I just set up this morning that when I assign it to the due date, it will automatically change the status to do. This is particularly important for the parking lot items. But so that is our master to-do list. And this is where I start. I want to fill up the majority of my week with stuff from the master to-do list. But then I have the parking lot. And you might wonder why I separate these. I separate these because I like to designate certain things that are more as ideas. This status property used to be much more elaborate. I used to have like a bajillion to-do statuses, like idea, waiting for, what are some of the other ones I had? Like incubator, stuff like that. Ultimately, they were all tasks that I was just waiting on. So instead, I consolidated all those properties down to what I call the parking lot. These are things that I want to do eventually, but like they're just not right now things. A lot of these are like custom agents I want to build in the future. And then I also have several things that are projects that I have kind of put in the parking lot for my tutoring business. I tend to use a blue check mark to denote those. I use a lot of visual cues in my system. And then there's a number of things in the parking lot that are like things I want to learn. And all of those have a green book as the icon. So I use a lot of visual cues in the system to designate things in the parking lot. And as I assign things to my day-to-day, then they will start to populate in the time estimates. This week's tasks is kind of the end product. So once I've gone through and I've started assigning things to my day, I will see them all here. Before I go through and I assign them to a container or to like I give them a time estimate, I will go through and I will go over to my calendar and I add in calls. There's a big reason why I do this, and I'm going to make my video bigger to talk about this. The reason why I do this is because of the fact that I was totally somebody who kind of used to keep my to-do list and my calendar very, very separate. But the problem with that is I would overload my to-do list, and then I would go over to, like, I would try to start powering through the items on my to-do list, but I would have meetings that I wasn't accounting for. So I would have this super long to-do list that I frankly just didn't have time to complete because of the fact that I wasn't accounting for meetings. So before I add in my time estimates, and you guys are kind of seeing the like end product here, before I add in my time estimates, I go through and I add in the actual meetings that I have. So for example, I have a tutoring call tonight. My other ones were canceled. For tomorrow, I have a session with my members in my community, and then I have some tutoring. And then actually I just got an additional tutoring session added to this day. So let me actually just add her down here. And so I will just add, I don't add what it is, but it is a meeting, and anything that's a meeting for me gets designated as a main priority. And then I put however long that meeting is. And then I will go ahead and assign it to these containers. I'm going to talk about the containers in just a second. So I go through and I do this, and I end seeing how much do I have on my calendar for that particular day. And actually this is good because since I recorded it this morning, I've had some changes, and you can see I have 10 hours of stuff on my calendar for Wednesday. That's not going to fly. So what I'm probably going to need to do is I'm probably going to need to maybe move my content creation, or maybe only do like 2 hours of content creation on Wednesday instead of the amount that I had planned. So it allows me to, once I see what these totals are, because this is in hours, it then allows me to make adjustments, which is something that I used to not do. I used to not do time estimates, and I used to not check and see how many things I had on any given day. So then I was just overloading myself. I don't have hardly anything on my calendar for Friday and Thursday because Thursday is actually my birthday, and Friday I'm heading out of town for my birthday. So that's kind of why those guys are light. But you can see how nice it is to be able to see this. And then when I go and actually go to my home base and work through my to-dos for that day, it's not nearly as chaotic and it's not nearly as overwhelming. I think we underappreciate, and I'm absolutely somebody who's like this, and this is actually teasing what I'm going to talk about next week in our Microsystem Monday, which is all about tabs. This is a feature inside of Notion I do not think people are talking about enough. There's a mental load that we carry, whether we realize it or not, when there's a lot of information in front of us and we're having to weed through it to make decisions. If you have a really, really long to-do list and then you sit down to try to decide what is next on that to-do list, you're weeding through that mental information. You are carrying a lot of mental load, whether you realize it or not. And I think doing something like this really helps to streamline things. And I also think making these decisions before you start your week helps to simplify things as well. I've been doing this process on Sunday for the last several weeks. So then once I go through and do that, once I add all of my calls in, I put in the time estimates for the remaining tasks that are on my to-do list, then I can look over at my weekly plan. And this is where we come to the containers. I went through with my AI agent and we kind of thought about all of the different work I do and roughly how we want it to break down over the course of the week. And this is what we came up with. I want to have roughly 15 hours of tutoring over the course of the week. That's kind of what I want my max to be. I want to spend no more than 8 hours in creation, no more than 7 hours in delivery, no more than 4 hours in selling and marketing, no more than 5 hours in CEO time, and roughly 2 hours in operations and admin. And so then what I go ahead and do is I set what the current week is. And the reason I do that is because I only want this formula, which is a formula I had the AI, right? I use the Notion AI formula guy all the time because I'm lazy and it just makes my life easier. I needed to designate, okay, I only want you to show me the estimated times for the tasks that are between May 10th and May 17th. So that's what it's doing in this property, is it is looking between the start and end date, and it is looking at the related tasks that are between those start and end dates, and then it's totaling up the time estimate for those tasks. So it's adding them all together, and that's what these numbers are giving me. So you can see I'm under my tutoring target, I'm under my creation target. I'm gonna probably be under everything this week because I'm doing a lighter week because it's my birthday on Thursday. But I'm I'm under my delivery target. I'm under my sell marketing target. I'm just under my CEO target. That one, I'm actually okay with it being like up there. And then as I start actually tracking these things, I can see what my actual times are because I do time tracking. So I've already spent 3.3 hours this week tutoring and 1.7 hours in CEO time. So then I can see how well do my estimates actually match to the time I actually spend doing these things. So that's the weekly plan. And so that's kind of what this process looks like as I go through, I map it. And then once I'm done on Sunday, I click this week has been planned and it changed it to plan. But now we're actually in progress because we're going. So that's kind of how I use this. And then when I'm actually working in my day-to-day, I'm on this home base page. And I personally, and actually we'll add re-recording Microsystem Monday to this because that's what we're doing right now. And I've started this probably 10 minutes ago. So roughly at 1. And we'll add this to create. And we'll say this is going to take no more than, not 30 hours, 0.5. Beautiful. So I'm doing this right now. So I can still kind of use my nice setup for when I'm actually going about doing my work for the day. How I personally do this is I have this filtered to show me the tasks that are on today that have a due date, a DO due date, a DUE due date, or a start date that is that day. And it's only showing me the top level tasks, not the subtasks. So these are the ones that I have designated as my main priority. And then when I finish these, if I've got extra time, I can take some of these guys and I can move them over. So that's kind of how I keep my vision clear. So I'm not overloading myself with too many tasks on any given day. I just kind of power through these. And then when I'm done with those, I'll move some of these guys over. And then I can see in here how much time I've spent on any given day. And actually, I used to have this group by objective. I'm going to have it grouped by container. Love that so much better. Okay. So then I can see how I've spent my time over the course of this day. And if I go over to weekly plan, this is going to auto update throughout the day with the things that I'm actively doing and the actual time I've spent doing it. So it's just a really, really nice way to make sure I'm not over planning, to make sure I'm not over committing myself. And then I can always, if I'm powering through things, I can always add more stuff to the to-do list. But I think for me, I want to do all the shit and get all the shit done, but I want to do it in a way that feels like it's not going to overwhelm me and set me up for failure in the process, which is honestly how I've been planning a lot lately. So this was the re-recording of this walkthrough. I definitely forgot to record it this morning, but if you've got any questions from this, let me know. You can see I'm using that tab structure right here and how clean it makes things. I'll talk through a little bit of some of my use cases and how to set up tabs in next week's Microsystem Monday, because that was something that you guys definitely said you wanted. But with that, drop any questions, comments below. And if you want to join us for next week's Microsystem Monday, then definitely head on over to the calendar in the school community. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and join my school community. The link's down below. We do a live 30-minute Notion training every single Monday morning. And it's where you can go in, ask questions, and access some really, really sick AI prompts that I shared recently for doing things like voice of customer research, competitive analysis, and building your story bank for your business. So all of that and more, but let me know if you've got any questions and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.